Good afternoon, everybody. Now we have to talk about a really, really important challenge, a deep tech challenge again. Just before, we talk about cloud sovereignty infrastructure in Europe, digital Europe. Now we would like to explore artificial intelligence. Sometimes it's really, really difficult to understand the degree of optimization for the software of artificial intelligence. And it's really challenging also for the company or the people, because it looks like a positive way to make business, but sometimes it's possible that the repercussion on the employment is really, really hard to determine. So I'm very pleased to welcome two distinguished speakers, Balme from Sciencespo Paris, and Alya Yacoubi, a startup, Zion, and I would like, because Zion has a very, very nice and important information today to share. So, Alya, could you share your position? You're raising funds now. You have news.
So, thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here today with you, Thomas, and with you, Stéphanie. So yes, like you said, we have really good news to share today. We raised 9 million euros very recently, from European funds. And this is very important for us because it will be very helpful to have bigger roadmap and also bigger markets. Today we are the leader in France in conversational AI. And we have the ambition to be the European leader in few years. We are already present in Spain, in Germany, in Belgium, and yeah, we want to have further markets.
Okay, it's a really, really nice introduction, because sometimes we think that AI is a United States technology, sometimes it's an Asian technology, but with you, with Zion and Alya, we know that AI is also a European technology. And we will explore if it's also added value, means value and not added value like we understood normally in business. So I would like to give you the floor, Stéphanie Balme, if you could explain your charge in Sciencespo. What are you working in AI today? What is AI for Sciencespo today?
Okay, so very nice everybody meeting you. So I'm the Dean of the Undergraduate Studies, and what we do at the Undergrad Studies is developing courses on the history and sociology of AI. But I would say the most important dimension at Sciencespo in terms of AI is very much in terms of tech, in terms of entrepreneurships, and at the master level studies. So we are working really hard on trying to understand this huge evolution, what AI would transform politically, socially, economically speaking, with a very interdisciplinary perspective and very European perspective, basically, because we do believe that actually Europe can carry along a message which is very specific for the rest of the world.
Yes, thank you so much. If you could share exactly the activity of Zion to enter in the topic.
So Zion was founded in 2017 by France Fodéré. And we are 80 now, 80 people. We launched the Zion Lab 1 year ago, and we are 15 in the Zion Lab. Engineers, data scientists, linguists, and from 5 countries in the Zion Lab and 13 countries in all Zion.
So since 1917, so your development is growing up very quickly.
Very fast, yes.
Very fast. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I understood better that you are raising 9 million euros just 4 years after the launch of the company.
So the idea behind Zion is that to automate customer service, make
Which type of customer?
Customer services. We are working with insurance, with banking, utilities, mainly in France. And we are trying to automate a part of the tasks related to customer services. So the main idea is to put optimization to the user who is calling his insurance or his bank or so on. Also optimization for the employee who is working in the call center.
So it's a B2B solution.
Yes, it's a B2B. And also, of course, productivity. So a great economic impact, because we are also trying to enhance the quality of service.
Okay, so could you explain us or take one very precise example of what is Zion solution is doing?
So we are specialized in conversational AI tools. Means, for example, callbots. When we call an insurance today, for example, if I will call my bank or my insurance, my call can be handled by a bot, a machine bot, which is understanding our language, natural language, and then try to automatically process my request. If my request is simple, he can do that, and then we have the fully automated process, or the callbot will transfer my call to a human agent. So it avoids to me, as a customer, as a user, to wait on the phone for a long time, and also to have simple and repetitive tasks held by the callbots and make the human focusing on the real added value. The human intelligence.
Okay, so it's robotization, automatization, but the human has a place in your company. It's not 100% automatization, your solution.
We reached 30 to 40% of fully automated.
30-40%.
Yes, of fully automated processes. For example, if I call my bank just for a document, to send me a document, we don't need human intelligence to process this request.
Okay. So, Stéphanie, when you listen, Alya, in your mind, and I know that you know very well the framework, the European framework, like regulation, and it's a hot topic, I think, now. If you could share your vision about this type of things, is the framework, the European framework, is up bottom or bottom up?
It's both. It's both. So my first reflection after listening to you is the European Union vision, which is to really establish a common framework for AI. A European common framework is definitely what a company like yours will be very much needed, because to be strong at the European level, we need a common market on AI. The same way as 50 years ago, we used to need an economic and trade common market. And why that? It's because then it means...
That means digital Europe, you say?
It means a digital/legal framework for AI.
Okay,
because
really clear, thank you.
If you have a very compartmentalized framework within EU, you will not be able to face and make up with the challenges compared to other international competitors such as the US or China. And I think AI, to be strong, even from a startup level or the national level, you need to raise it up at the European level. So actually, it's a very, very concrete example, your company, of the need that you have of Europe. This is the reason why you could raise 9 million euros. It's precisely because there is a European Union. And also the idea of having a common framework, legally speaking, businessly speaking, so to be uptake to make sure that some of the big companies in the future, in AI, will also be European companies. And also you need to be protected by the European Union at the every nation state level and at the level of European Union. And also, I would say, in order for the European Union to keep up with its own values. So recently speaking, you asked me whether it's a bottom-up or top-down measure.
And if you could compare also the different strategy in the world, I think that definitely AI is a solution. So we in IT, and I'm working for Business France, it's globalized. When you have a challenge, it's difficult to say we have just this challenge in this digital space. We are creating digital Europe now with a special environment. So is it really, really interesting to make this dialogue between startup and Sciencespo, but also to compare which mechanism perhaps different countries has adopted?
Well, if I can give you a very simple example, a month ago the European Union drafted a guideline for an AI trustworthy, meaning a benevolent AI that will protect fundamental values of the European Union. And they did it by consulting companies like yours, and basically through an online public opinion consultancy, asking enterprises to basically say what they wanted. And the first lesson learned from the EU is that companies like yours were demanding more regulations. They were demanding for a sort of legal common framework. And secondly, they had many ideas how to protect inclusiveness in inclusive society, how to fight against discrimination in terms of gender, how to protect human dignity, how to protect data privacy and all these issues, right? So it's bottom up. And it ended up with a white paper, and the European white paper, at the end of the day, became the guiding principle of the European Union that about to be, I hope, adopted very soon. So it's bottom up and open. So if you compare it to the US or to China, I mean, in China, definitely it's a truly top-down process.
Yes, I lived in China for 5 years, and it's not so surprising for me. But I know that you have also Chinese experience. You know very well the Chinese market.
Yeah. So actually it's a top-down process because it's a state-driven process, but yet actually two big companies, Baidu and Tencent, have actually
huge company.
Huge, I mean the worldwide biggest companies on AI. They have drafted guidelines and regulation on AI, asking the Chinese government to do more than their own, I would say, initiative. So you also can find a sort of bottom-up, top-down initiative, even including in China. And this is precisely because without a bottom-up approach, you cannot end up with guidelines that are useful for you as a market, and also to make sure that you obey the law. Because you also live within a framework where there are legal standards. So, and in the case of the United States, it's slightly different. It's very much at the company level instead of at the national level.
When you say companies, the size of the companies, in the ecosystem, we have a strong ecosystem in AI in Europe and especially in France. But when you say that in US, it's more focused on companies, do you have in mind a huge company like you mentioned in China, or it's more big or small companies?
Well, I would say we're not afraid of caricature. I would say in Europe we have the transnational level of the European Union framework. In China it's very much nationalistic tone, and in the US it's company-based guidelines. So, and I truly believe that the European model is definitely the one worth it, and worth it for the 21st century, because it aims at protecting our values. Whether it will manage, this is another question, but actually the intention is very constructive. So it aims at protecting our values, and it says there are equally enough opportunities and challenges based on these new technologies. In order for these technologies to become constructive in the world we are living in, we need to organize a framework, which is a legal framework based on our values. So this is that's what I say, and I do believe this is the best way we can do in the European system.
When you say that it's bottom up in France, that means that we are waiting for the company also to manage technology and values also. So in Zion Lab, do you have this kind of strategy, or I think that maturity to know not to think not only on technology, but to think about on human-centric, we could say, advantage.
Yes. So, as a French engineer, let's say, and French researcher, we have been told for many years that Europe and France, but Europe are very far behind the US and very far behind China. But I don't think it's the case, actually. I think it's a good...
Thank you.
a very big advantage that we are French and we are European, because we can benefit directly from this work, from this ethical work. It's produced by experts in ethics and experts in society. And in the level of Zion, we are deeply committed to ethical AI and AI for good, because we deal daily with interactions, human-machine interactions, about insurance, about banking, so very sensitive data. So yeah, we have in the lab we are 15 people.
So data for the client. So you are thinking of the data for the client. So you make an added value because you are thinking that the data is really, really sensitive.
Yes.
So okay, this is the first point. Okay.
Yes, the data of our clients is very sensitive, so we have to be really careful with that. We also take into consideration diversity in the tool, in the artificial intelligence tool, which is the conversational robot, but also in people who are conceiving the technology. For example, in the Zion lab, we are 50% women, 50% men. So we are trying to have equity in people who are conceiving the technology, and I think it's very important. Also, in the use of our AI tools, actually in Zion, we focus a lot on telephony, on callbots. And this is because we believe that AI tools have to be accessible for all people. And we know that elderly people, for example, are very much comfortable with the phone than with chatbots or websites.
What is the main challenge for you for the elder people?
Sorry?
What is the main challenge for this type of population, the old people, elder people? What is how AI could make more accessible social challenge, social integration?
Yes.
We have to all in mind the sanitarium crisis, so could AI help this type of people to be more integrated, for example, or not isolated?
Actually, I have a short story about this.
So please share the story. We'd like the story.
It was in the Christmas period, and an elderly woman called her insurance for a refund, and it was our callbot who handled the request, fully handled the request. And then at the end of the conversation, she said, "Thank you very much and happy Christmas." And she was like very happy, and she knows that she's talking to a bot, because we have to say it at first. I mean, the first exchange is that, yeah, we are talking to a virtual agent. So this is actually very cute, but also very alarming. It means like people, and especially elderly people, can build social interactions with artificial intelligence. And this is good actually for AI, and this is also kind of, it can be alarming, so we have to be careful. We are talking about emotional AI today in Zion. It's our main focus today to make our callbots.
Do you have a special intellectual property in emotional artificial intelligence? For you, it's a type of algorithm?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's an algorithm which is in production now, and it's, I mean, we can detect anger from 2 seconds in the voice, only in the voice. So we can do that with many languages and many different cultures. And this is actually, we do that to add some empathy to our callbots. For example, if I call my insurance my insurance, and I'm in an emergency, and I show that I'm kind of stressful situation, the callbot will be able to understand this and to transfer my request, like emergency request, to a human agent. But we have to be careful. I think it's our responsibility as people who are conceiving those tools to study the possible impacts in society from these tools.
So that means that the technology is not 100% of the solution. I got it. Or could we be confident at 100% of the solution that AI is finding that the right emotion? 100%?
No, not 100%, but a little bit less. But I think, and now I agree with what you said. Like today, when we compare AI, we compare performance. And I believe that in few years we will compare ethics in AI between tools in the market. We will say, no, this tool is more ethical than this one because it's explainable, we can find diversity, and so on.
So my question, Stéphanie, is regarding your students. You have 6,000 students in your team.
Portfolio.
Yes. So AI, it's a hot topic for them. I made also political science, and 20 years ago we didn't talk about AI. But today, for the young generation, and could be the same generation of Alya, it's a topic. There is like an interest in fintech. What do you see? What do you feel?
Well. I would say some of them are totally geeks, and completely into AI, but very few of them, and I believe too few of them. And you have quite a number of students, unfortunately, who haven't understood yet how important it is. And so whenever we organize courses or intellectual seminars, sometimes they don't show up by saying, I didn't want to study math, I'm not interested in engineering studies, this is the reason why I chose Sciencespo, and therefore I only want to do political science, humanities and social sciences disciplines. And we tell them that actually it's equally important for them to understand from within how AI works as to show to people from AI that social sciences is important. I mean, you need people who have studied sociology, political science, who need how to speak languages, anthropologists. I mean, all the disciplines that you traditionally study at Sciencespo are very useful to build up an interdisciplinary approach to AI. So this is one aspect, and this is the reason why I'm trying my best to work putting together social scientists and natural scientists for the purpose that they need to understand new technologies and need to understand that they can bring something to the people who only focus from an engineering perspective on these issues.
Something to the people or companies, because you have also an ethic approach, so we could imagine that your student could go on startup ecosystem.
Sure, I hope so. I do hope so. You should come. You should come and present your company.
It's a
place for Stéphanie in your company.
Of course.
So if I lose my job, can I join?
It would be an honor for us.
No, really, and also there is a whole. The job put aside, there is also a whole geopolitical dimension to the AI world. And that's precisely what I'm very, very much interested in doing. You know how international relations are changed by AI, or the geopolitics of AI. The question of semiconductors. If you don't understand where semiconductors are produced, then you don't understand why the China-US-Taiwan relations are getting so bad. So it's definitely a new topic.
Autonomy.
But I have to say, I have the feeling that the people who are aware of the importance of these issues are people who have an experience of the outside world, but France and Europe. And if you have the chance, like you and me, to live in China for many years, you know that AI is a daily issue. It's a daily life issue.
It's a daily issue,
and
but it could be, from my side, could be a competitive advantage. If you add value, could be an alternative also on a place for other countries. We don't have AI ecosystem. You mentioned that US have a strong ecosystem. You mentioned that China, Asia has a strong ecosystem. We have a strong ecosystem. Perhaps there is another part of the world who don't have a strong ecosystem, and they have to make a choice between technologies and added value or value added. I think that the time is running, so if you have only one word to conclude on this session, what you say, Alya?
I just want to say that it's really important to reduce the gap between industry and the academic world. And I think this will be our strength in Europe to do so. And at Zion, we are trying to do so. We have PhD students. We recruit a lot of PhDs.
How many recruitment are you?
We have 3 in the Zion lab. We have 3 doctors. 4,
You're
sorry.
recruiting now?
Sorry.
Are you looking for new talents now?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so share.
So yeah, don't hesitate to apply. We want to conduct research work, thèse chiffres, industrial PhDs, in order to reduce the gap between the academic world and the industrial world.
When you mention this, that means that you are in link with institute, R&D institute in France?
Yes. We are working on collaborations.
Okay, it's possible to have this name, so it's confidential.
Actually, we have a scientific advisor from Paris Sud, Gérard Cholet. So he's our scientific advisor. We also have doctors from l'IRIT at Toulouse, Avignon, Alya, and I came from l'IMSI.
Okay, so you have all R&D ecosystem. So Stéphanie, thank you so much, Alya. Stéphanie, one word to conclude.
No, I think,
AI and technology, society, Sciencespo.
Well. No, I really concur to what you've said. I think bridging the gap between industry and research, and I would say in my portfolio, bridging the gap between research and teaching will be equally important. And if you have anyone to hire, I have the students, you have the positions, so I think we should make a deal.
That's clear. For me, I have a word. We have to be comfortable, I think, with AI, because we have Sciencespo, we have a long story of the social study, of political study, and we have really, really nice technologies. And I understood that you are looking for jobs, it's creating jobs, so my word is comfortable. We could be comfortable in Europe for AI. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.